What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
This podcast contains language and themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience. Hello and welcome to the Three Busted Barstools podcast. You are joined by myself, the Sasquatch. You are joined by the last bastion of research, Dr. Rosenthal J. Wiggum. And you are joined by the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. It's the coach. How are we, lads? We all good?
We're still here.
We're still ticking away.
Yeah, we're still here, fine and dandy, yeah, for a Sunday.
An absolutely incredible weekend of sport. I think there was so much on. It was nigh on impossible to keep up to.
Loads on.
Now we'll get to all that in a few minutes, but there is a bit of housekeeping, I suppose, to get to. I suppose first and foremost, Beric sadly can't be with us this week, but he is returning as of next week. He has a little voice note for you later on in the episode that we'll get to. In addition, you may also notice that this is the second guest appearance by the coach, and we're pretty happy to announce that he will be joining us in a more permanent basis from now on. Be a bit of a rebrand, a bit of a show restructure over the next couple of episodes. Any thoughts on the matter, Coach?
Thanks for having me, first of all, and I hope all the Stoolers, do you call them Stoolers? Stools?
We could call them Stools. We call them Stoolers. I don't think we have that many that they deserve a name as of yet, but it's something we can look at. Trademarking, maybe.
I hope. Yeah, look, I just hope you have enough to pay the wage. That's all.
Yeah, a lengthy contract negotiation. That's why Beric hasn't been here. He's been doing a bit of a Lev Bell and holding out for that extra dough. I suppose, and one more thing as well, just to kind of announce it. We have started an affiliate membership with USA Sports. So you'll notice a link in our bio in the Instagram. You notice a link in the podcast description, wherever you happen to find it. And if you click that link, you'll be brought to the website. You'll be able to purchase whatever you want, and you'll be in a position to A, support your American franchise, and B, support the podcast. So by all means, feel free to do that. Anything else to add, Jens, or will we kick it off?
Let's kick off.
Let's kick off.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose the first port of call, return of the National Leagues this weekend. So a bit of inter-county action. I think a lot of people were starved of all summer and happy to see it back. Unfortunately, Meath, I think they were already relegated from Division 1, but look, something I also brought up on the Instagram story that I think some of our Dublin-based hosts didn't like to mention was the score in the minor game. In which Meath were victorious first round of the minor championship over Dublin, 115 to 7 points. Willing to be corrected on that. Again, I think a lot of people pointed out that there was kind of a relatively poor performance from the goalkeeper in that as well, and he didn't let in any goals or anything like that, but it is an area we need to work on in Meath. But look, there's signs of improvement. It's slow growth. When McEntee took over the job, it was always going to be that case. We'd fallen so far. It was sadly a hard ask, but I do think there's a good possibility that it'll bounce back out of Division 2 next year.
We also see that Jim McGuinness can't work miracles.
Can't work miracles. Now, looking at the table, Mayo second last. I don't know if they're second last now. I wouldn't say they're second last now after that win. But Galway were second heading into the weekend. Absolutely annihilated them. I think the final score was Galway 17 points, Mayo 323. Like, I mean, it's phenomenal scoring by Mayo.
The huge score, yeah.
And I suppose other scores around the ground.
I think they're 6 points difference or goal difference, points difference.
Could be now. I've just thrown up a table in front of us, but that table was live as of last night. Has been updated with today's kind of results. Donegal obviously also bet Tyrone 217 to 213. In addition, I think the first game back.
Anna Brogan made a point on Friday evening about how it should run similar to the NBA, and teams have to stay in hotel bubbles and stuff like this. But look, we're looking at amateurs. We're looking at people who,
it's not feasible,
they have to work 9 to 5. And the majority of them, some may be working from home or whatever, might be a little bit easier for them. But it's it's not feasible for your lower county, your Leitrim's, your Louds, your stuff like that. So I don't know what happens there. Do you leave the cream of the crop and the top 4 or 5 or 6 teams stay in hotels because they're probably making enough money off sponsorship to do that? And I look, as you know from last week, I don't see how the championship's going to go ahead, particularly with the northern counties and stuff like that. I'm dubious about it. I'm not sure that we'll see the end of it.
Speaking of Leitrim, interesting enough turn of events over the weekend. Leitrim were due to play down Division 3. Leitrim had to concede a walkover. A number of their players were awaiting results from COVID testing and hadn't got them prior to when they were scheduled to leave for Down. Obviously, a bit of a commute, so they had to concede a walkover. It's not something, I suppose, in normal times you'd ever accept a walkover in league football. A deciding factor as well. You see in the NFL, the players are tested on a Monday, they're tested on a Wednesday, and they're tested on a Friday. They get the results from the Friday one on a Sunday morning. Now, I know there's obviously scope for them to get infected on a Saturday, but I don't know if the GA, especially inter-county squads, will have the facility to get their results prior to game time. So we could have a case like what happened to Leitrim happen to one of your bigger counties, and that would potentially be huge.
And we also don't know how many players are getting tested, how many are close contacts. Like, do the GAA currently have a rule? I'm unaware if they do, of a game can go ahead if X amount of players are out due to close contact or due to awaiting results or whatever. Like, in the Premier League, we've had teams, West Ham had 3 players out with COVID recently, and the games that they were in went ahead even without their manager and the players. So I don't think we've had it in black and white from the GAA to say, and
up until 15 minutes to go in that West Ham game, you would have said they're far better off without him.
Well, yeah. Look, it's tricky, Tom. I just don't see how it's feasible to keep going and pushing games. Like, is every team that's going to wait the results give a walkover? I don't think so. Or if Dublin get 3 or 4 cases, do you think they're going to give another team a walkover? It's not going to happen. So
the argument there is that Dublin have that big of a pull.
Well, yeah.
That 3-4 players can be replaced. Now, I'm not saying that means Dublin are going to win that game, and it might have a massive knock-on effect. Like, say if it was Kieran Kilkenny, any of the players of that ilk, it is going to affect them in some of the tighter games. But
we've also seen it with Galway. I think in the League of Ireland, Galway United had a game pushed back, and 1 or 2 other teams had games pushed back because of close contacts and waiting on the results and whatever. There wasn't walkovers given, but if Leitrim are given a walkover already, so the GA have now stamped down their market. That's what's going to happen. So that's a very, very dangerous thing to do.
Absolutely. And then I suppose, like, we had touched on it last week, the introduction of the penalty shootout. Like, the GA really, they're hoping to have the Hurling All-Ireland final played on the 13th of December and the football played the week later on the 19th. I don't think they've allowed any window for postponement, a cancellation, I think it's a bit short-sighted, potentially.
So the headline of the weekend, then, I suppose, is just Dublin win. As much as it pains me to say it, Dublin win.
Dublin win, but they lose the minors
as well.
Speaking of your yellow-bellied cousins, big win against Limerick, 113 to 110. All the way down.
Yeah, it's a big win from, particularly after losing Paul Galvin recently as well. After he's after a short stint as manager, but and then I know in the Wexford, in the hurling squad, there's a bit of their own pandemic with coaching staff and players going down with COVID as well. So we'll see how that develops over the next few days.
Up to 6, I think, was lobbied around. I don't know how true that is. I just read the headlines.
Well, Davy Fitz decided to join Instagram in the middle of it. I see. So.
To be fair, did you follow him? Because I did.
I followed him. Absolutely.
Love me a bit of Davy Fitz. Anything else to touch on, Doctor?
Who doesn't? No, just me, I suppose, a Dublin point of view. Congratulations on the win. Last night, Stephen Cluxton became Dublin's all-time appearance maker, and Dean Rock became Dublin's all-time top scorer. So congratulations to both. I think there's it's a 50-50 toss on people's likeness or dislikeness of the New Jersey, but I like it. Just control it out there.
I just think it's very similar. It's very similar to one I think maybe the ladies camogie team had a few years ago. Could be wrong on that. Could be corrected. I personally don't like it.
And also, just to... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you, but just to finish up on that point. So, the scenario is if Donegal beat Kerry and Dublin beat Galway, Dublin will be National League champions.
Okay. There's going to be no league final
That's
this year,
the
obviously.
permutation. No, it's just basically whoever's top.
Like a Premier League, basically, obviously. And then I suppose, obviously, as well,
The Premier League.
another source of joy, I suppose, for Dublin fans. 120s were victorious, 114 to 112 over Tyrone, 120 semi-final.
Tyrone, yeah.
And they now move on to play Galway in the final, who beat Kerry 115 to 110. Didn't go well for the minors, but I think everyone else did well in the Dublin setup, as would be the norm. Anything else to add, gentlemen, or shall we move on to the next topic at hand, given how much we have to get through?
Let's move.
We just move on to the next topic. Yeah.
It's got a tight schedule.
Yeah.
Tight schedule.
to 9.
Here we go, gents. My one of my favourite topics to cover on a weekly basis. It's the NFL. The doctor's getting better. We're down the Berrick's opinion on the NFL. It's actually a bad week for them to be missing because I think the Falcons are currently up 17-0. But given their history, who knows what way that'll finish. Yeah, some interesting things happening around the league this week. Some interesting matchups. So one I really wanted to touch on is the meeting tonight of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Believe it or not, it's only their third time meeting in their respective careers. Kind of a little bit of
last.
Possibly the last. They're both now in the NFC, so it might be a bit more common. Previously, obviously, Brady was in the AFC, so two separate divisions. Did a bit of research, a bit of digging around. So both of them obviously are both North California men. Both grew up massive 49ers and as a result Joe Montana fans. They actually they weren't born and raised too far away from each other. Per season, Tom Brady has thrown on average 4,138 yards versus 4,085 yards for Aaron Rodgers. In terms of TDs per season, Big Tom is 30 on average, whereas Aaron is 31.5. In terms of interceptions, Tom Brady is 9.9 per season versus the 7 for Aaron Rodgers. In terms of completion percentage, I'm getting very nerdy now, lads, so you can switch off if he's one. Tom is at 63.8% versus Aaron Rodgers 64.6%. And finally, and this is the key statistic for me, I've had countless arguments with people saying that, it's probably less of an argument now, but that Aaron Rodgers was a better quarterback. You got to look to the organisation. So in terms of sacks given up on average, Tom has suffered 27.7 sacks a season versus 37.9 sacks per season for Aaron Rodgers.
That's telling me Rodgers is the stronger player.
Yeah, and that's kind of what probably found the stats that suited my argument, I think, I suppose. Obviously, Brady came into the league in 2000, started in 2001 when Drew Bledsoe went down injured. Aaron Rodgers had a bit of a difficult entry to the league. Was touted as the number one draft pick between himself and Alex Smith. And Rodgers fell in the draft. Personality issues were slated. Apparently, coaches didn't like his confidence. Eventually picked up by Green Bay, and he sat for 3 years behind the legend that is Brett Favre, making his start in 2008, going on to win the Super Bowl in, I think it was 2009, so maybe 2010 season maybe. So 20 years in the league for Brady, 12 years in the league for Aaron Rodgers. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. It's mad,
isn't it? 24 years of age. So we're looking at Rodgers be 24 years of age going into the NFL. That's just done. Wow.
He had an interesting path as well. Wasn't offered a Division 1 scholarship. Wasn't offered any scholarships for college. Went to a JUCO. So fans of Last Chance U would be familiar. Eventually then, after a season, went to Cal University. And from there he kind of played lights out and was drafted. That's why he was a bit older. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's also 1-1. So I think this could be deciding as to who is the number one quarterback between the two of them. Irish viewers will be a bit lucky as well. Their Chiefs game with the Bills is slated for 10 o'clock Irish time tomorrow. So usually you can't really see the Monday night game, so you might get a chance to view it this Monday. Interesting times with Le'Veon Bell. So also did a bit of research on this one.
Le'Veon broke.
Le'Veon not so broke. I suppose this next piece I'm going to bring to you will highlight the importance of good management in your organisation. So Le'Veon Bell was drafted obviously by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was there for 5 years, and they paid him over the course of 5 years $16.2 million because he's on his rookie contract. So that's generally expected in the NFL circles, whatever. At the end of the 5 years, Le'Veon Bell was due to sign a new contract, and he decided to hold out. Pittsburgh Steelers stood firm, and he ended up holding out for the whole season. At which stage, I need to stop watching Red Zone. Carson Wentz is playing terrible. At which stage he was signed with the New York Jets. I think initially it was a 4-year contract worth $52 million base salary. He's lasted 17 games. Over the course of those 17 games, he's paid $28 million, which, and I've run the numbers, he had 264 carries, so it works out at $106,060. He's ran for 863 yards, which works out at $32,444 per yard. He scored just 3 touchdowns, which works out at $9 million, and a lot of threes, basically, for 3 touchdowns for $28 million. In terms of receiving yards, he had 500. You're looking at $56,000 per yard reception. And finally, the coup de grace in the whole lot of this is the Jets still owe Le'Veon Bell for this season $6 million to pay for the Chiefs. And the Chiefs will only have to pay Le'Veon Bell $679,000 for the remainder of the season. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the importance of strong leadership and management in your organisation.
Can he pour a pint of Guinness?
Yet again, the laughing stock.
Yeah, if you're a Chiefs fan, you're going to be incredibly happy with that.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose there's the old adage, no one has ever repeated on a Super Bowl. The Chiefs have literally lost a game and signed potentially one of the best running backs in the league on his day. So it's huge for them. Absolutely huge for them. Brilliant bit of business. What more can you say?
As a Jets fan, if you were a Jets fan, what are you thinking?
We live in Ireland. If I decide to change teams, I don't think anyone's going to notice. If I was a Jets fan. What do you mean? I've always been a Chiefs fan. You're lucky enough in that regards. Like, if you lived in the States, obviously you're goosed.
One thing I noticed that was a pretty, I don't know if you say impressive, but the Pittsburgh game against Cleveland tonight, they have 5,000 fans in the stadium. They have ticketed pods, and they are not allowed tailgates, so there's no fans allowed outside the ground. So 5,000 fans. I'm not sure on the capacity of your stadium. I think you're talking in around the 80,000 mark, but is that what we're seeing now? Is that what we're going to see going forward, or are we going to see a cancellation before we see anything like that of getting fans back into games? I know if you compare it to the Bledsoe Cup this morning at 4 a.m, if you got to watch it or just watch the highlights like myself, they'd have sold out. They were sold out. So
back-to-back weekends.
Yeah, back-to-back weekends sold out. So I just thought it was interesting with Pittsburgh that that's the way they're going with things. It seems quite 5,000 out of 80. It seems like a good ratio, but my thoughts are, what are they charging for tickets? I believe they're starting somewhere in the region of $350 per ticket. Would you pay it?
No, I wouldn't personally. But then I don't know what the starting rate is for Pittsburgh tickets. I mean, I know NFL fans stateside, the demand is huge. I mean, my own Philadelphia Eagles, to get a season ticket, you're literally waiting on someone to die. And that's no exaggeration. Yeah,
no, it's similar to Anfield, I think, in terms of trying to.
If you want a season
that
ticket,
kind of fan base, that local,
someone actually has to die for you to get a season ticket if you're on the list, or if you even move up the list.
Why is Philadelphia? Explain this to me. I've followed NFL for years now. I don't understand why why the Philadelphia specific fan base is so strong and so, they're at every game. Every bar is Eagles. Everything. Everything in that city is Philadelphia Eagles. And they're sold at every game.
It's a representation of the city itself. It's kind of a blue collar, hard working city, and they love their own, but they're not afraid. Like, that's what they're saying. There's Philadelphia Eagles fans are back in tonight. Now, it's similar enough numbers in terms of Pittsburgh as well. Obviously, they're both in the state of Pennsylvania, so I'd imagine the rules are somewhat identical. But that's what they're saying is, like, Philadelphia fans are the first fans to let their team know when they're not playing up to scratch. The only answer I can give you, Coach, is it's a representation of the city, and it's like it's a city similar enough to Boston. Do you know? You know what Boston sports fans
Like
are like.
Yankees, yeah.
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 Do you know
Of course I do. As a massive Boston Celtics fan.
Yeah.
Into
How do you
it.
feel about the Lakers equalising in terms of
you know,
chips? That's gotta be
interesting.
rough. That's gotta be rough. You've lived through Man United equalising and then going ahead, and you're now facing into a season next year of the Lakers potentially going above the Celtics in terms of chips.
You think the Lakers will go ahead? Do you think the Lakers will win next year?
They could.
They started the season quite shaky.
Yeah,
they did start the season.
They could.
But I think that's how LeBron always starts, doesn't he? He kind of builds up. It's a gradual build.
It's a bit like United years ago. I mean, Ferguson would have touched on this. He said he never really pushed much on pre-season, and that's why United used to always start slow. And he said they get their fitness when during the season, and when it comes to the end, they're hitting their peak. They're not getting their injuries. They're not as fatigued, and that's how he used to build his title winning sides. Basically, was a slow start, let the players turn over, and like there is certain sides that would do that. I think it's a lot easier when you're secure in your position. You're not under pressure. You don't need to get the wins in early because people know what you're capable of. But just on the Lakers, an example of a top level executive in contrast to the Jets. Jeannie Buss is the top executive of the LA Lakers. And I just read, I think over the weekend, Anthony Davis has decided to opt out of free agency and re-sign with the Lakers.
Yes.
Too often we see players make emotional decisions following a loss, like akin to Messi after the drubbing by Bayern Munich.
Mm-hmm.
But you're actually seeing someone, and clubs are kind of don't often do this. She's like kind of got him to make an emotional decision following the NBA Finals. He's just won his first championship. Emotions are high. And she'd probably get him on a cut price deal because she'd say, look, LeBron's got a year, 2 years left. If you take this deal, we'll stack the money more, like let's say a 4-year contract. We'll give you the bulk of your money in years 3 and 4. We'll guarantee it. But that puts us under the salary cap for the next 2 years, and we can bring in maybe potentially a third superstar, which is potentially what LeBron is going to need to get chips 5 and 6.
And I was just going to say, Boston have a lot. They have a lot of great young stars, but they're missing that one piece.
That superstar.
A little bit of experience, a superstar.
The thing I really like about Boston is there's no, like a lot of teams in the NBA, there's a definitive starting 5, second 5.
Yeah.
In Boston, those lines get a little bit blurred. Like I know you've got Jason Tatum, and you've got Kemba, but I mean Marcus Smart, could be second or first. Jaylen Brown at the start. Now he seems to have cemented his spot in the first 5, but he could just as easily have been second 5 over the last few years.
Yeah, I don't know where that star is going to come from though. That's the problem. They needed to kick on. They've been so close for 2 years now, and I just don't see where that star comes from. There doesn't seem to be anyone wanting to move. The year that's been in it,
I think there's a potential implosion coming in Philly, and they can make a move at either Joel Embiid or they can make a move at either Ben Simmons. One of those two they just don't work together. So Philly probably needs to move off.
Embiid's had a few run-ins as well with the coach, I think, hasn't he? So
he's injury prone, and there's speculation he's quite a lazy person.
Well, that tells me that he's not the right player for the Celtics. I don't think he'd be accepted there in that kind of team atmosphere that they've got.
It's a cultural thing as well. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, there was a phenomenal piece of video put up over the weekend, and it was basically an interview by Kobe, and obviously it had the works, it had the marketing guys were brilliant in the video, brilliant music, and it was basically LeBron coming to the Lakers, whatever, and he just put up a line. He said a line. He says, "We don't hang banners for Western Conference championships. And if you're that type of player, you don't belong here." And I think that's the same in Boston. They don't hang Eastern Conference finals. They hang championships. Do you know what I mean? The certain franchises, if Cleveland won the Eastern Conference in the morning, they'd hang a banner.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's similar. Like Celtics with Doc Rivers. I don't know if you've seen his episode on the Playbook on Netflix, currently running on Netflix. But
fantastic.
It's really, really good. And you would have seen the spotlight he had in the arena for the next banner, and he was all focused on that banner.
Does not go off. The light does not go off. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, really good. It's really worth a watch to the listeners if they haven't seen it already. It's 25 minutes of fantastic coaching knowledge and experience there. Really good.
And else, Jen, so we might just take a quick word. We've actually got a lot coming up in season 2, but we might just take a quick break and have a word from. Hi everyone, it's the Sasquatch here from the Three Busted Barstools podcast. This episode and all episodes in season 2 are produced in partnership with the Square Ball. The Square Ball is located just off Marion Square. It has dozens of screens showing televised sport and award-winning barbecue, making it the perfect spot in Dublin to catch the game. For more information or to book in, please visit the-square-ball.com. Thanks. Hello and welcome back to the Three Busted Barstools, episode 2, episode 6, season 2. Jesus, slip up there. I suppose to kick the second half off, some of you may have been aware, and if you that follow us on Instagram, we have over the last couple of weeks been requesting your best fan questions as part of a giveaway for a £60 voucher for USA Sports. So we've one final entry into the podcast. We'll play that now, and then shortly after we're gonna do a live draw on air that you won't hear till Tuesday.
Good evening, gentlemen. My question for you would be maybe a tricky one to answer, but it's about. You could answer it for a long time, and I imagine you could certainly you'll have a good chat about it. Is the future of sport after this pandemic is worn off, and how you think sport will be different when fans return back to the clubs? Because I think if this pandemic stretches on for too long, we're already seeing it. The game is changing. There are attempts at grabbing power. I think things will be different when they come back. And how is that going to affect how we remember sport being pre-pandemic? And is it going to be a good thing or a bad thing?
So a fantastic question there from Tim.
Thanks, Tim. You only took up half the show with the question, but that's okay.
Look, it's a good question, and I think you probably
great question.
Yeah, good question.
I suppose from my point of view, I'm sure you're all sick of listening to me at this stage, but from my point of view, the hardest hit section of sport won't be the top echelons, it won't be the elite level, and it won't be the grassroots, because grassroots, let's be honest, is pretty much driven by the community and the communities in which the clubs reside. I think it's going to be that middle tier. It's going to be that semi-pro or the lower echelons of professional sports. I think like Leagues 1 and 2, I don't know what it's called now, but if anyone remembers the Blue Square Premier, I think Rugby League in the UK is struggling. I think Championship Rugby is struggling. Heaven knows what, say, netball in the UK or, these lower echelon, high level elite sports, how they're coping. And I think they're going to be the hardest hit. I think fans will always return to Premier League football. I don't know what you think, gents.
Yeah, I think listening to
pretty much the same.
Arsene Wenger talking during the week, talking about changing the football league. So as we bring it down to 90 teams, I'm not convinced that we'll see that, but I think it's probably time that we'll see the introduction of B teams, or league teams, League 1, League 2, working very, very closely with Premier League clubs. So taking some part, I know the whole Premier League, the Premier League ideas were scrapped during the week.
Project Big,
but I feel that we'll still see elements of that implemented. I know one of the kind of rules they were going for was to have 4 players at one club be able to be loaned to another club. So say, for example, or for argument's sake, Liverpool and Bolton. Liverpool might give 4 players to Bolton. They're quite close in terms of geography and stuff like that. And I think that we'll see a lot more of that, if not the introduction of B teams, and clubs working closer together. Because look, let's face it, the League One and the League Two teams are going to struggle financially. Like, even when we do get a vaccine, if and when, hopefully we do, and we go again, not everyone's going to have that vaccine in 24 hours. So the first 10, 12, 20, the whole season possibly, there's still going to be people not going to games because they won't have had the vaccine, but there'll be people going to games because they do have the vaccine. So there's still going to be a balance.
And how do you police that?
Exactly, and yeah, how do you police that? But the lower league clubs are still going to struggle. So I think, look, it's probably time that we do, because the sheer amount of players at Premier League clubs. You've seen it with Chelsea. It seems to be the kind of that's the way they run the club, the business plan. I don't know, 60 odd players they had on loan, I think, over the last season. It's probably the way forward, and introducing those teams to the league. We've lost Bury. We're probably going to lose a few more this year if we don't see clubs working closer together and help from the Premier League. I know that's a lot of focus in the Premier League. One area I think will struggle big time, and has began to struggle, is women's sports. In particular, professional or semi-professional women's sports. If you look at the FWSL in England, they've had a massive influx of players from America because the season's been short. So French players, European, from various different European countries. I think that's one area that's going to struggle as well, because they had just started to get that train in motion, and get going and getting, and bigger grounds started to play. And I know Liverpool playing in Tranmere's ground, and they'd started to get fans bumps on seats. So look, I think that's one area that's really gonna, because if you've got 15, 20, 25 quid that you're going to spend on a ticket and you're living in the UK, you're probably going to go to your male counterparts first. And that's no disrespect to the women, but it's just a bigger draw, and you've only got X amount of money to spend on a ticket that week, So, I think you're right. I think in what you're saying, in that it's the middle echelons, it's the League Ones, League Twos that are going to struggle. Outside of that, your amateur sports are going to be fine. I think your GAA is going to be fine. Look, League of Ireland is a different kind of market. You got fans that are die hard. I think, not a whole lot. You're going to lose your rainy day fans, or your sunny day fans, whatever you want to look at it. So you might see a little bit of a dip in attendances, but ultimately they'll be okay. It's the League Ones and the League Twos, maybe possibly the first division in Ireland. But again, it's similar to GAA in that they have, if you're a Longford Town fan, you're going to go to Longford Town every week. You don't decide suddenly to go to a Bows game. You just don't do that. So, look, I think you're on the money there. It's the semi-professional kind of area. And then I just fear for the women's sport as well. Doc?
Yeah, pretty much echoing what you're saying there as well. Like, it's just very sad to see and very hard to take, like, as a sports fan, because it is happening to each and every sport. But like you said, the likes of grassroots, obviously it's pretty much based around the community that will survive. Your big elite higher echelon ones, it's basically the middle ground people, or your kind of semi-pro, who are going to suffer most. And of course women's sports as well. It's not good to see as well, but then you kind of need that in a sense. So I know going to need, apart from those governing bodies, you are going to need government intervention and funding as well if you are to survive. I know a lot of people are for that, some people are against it, but if they see how much it's suffering and how much is actually needed, then surely they'll come to some kind of in agreement with a rescue package or what.
Yeah, Sass, I think actually it could go a little bit like the NBA in that they've got NBA G League that will be affiliated to the,
I think,
the big teams.
While I appreciate where the doctor come from with a government handout, the only thing I would counteract that, it's probably quite a dark point, is there are so many facets of society crying out for government intervention. They can only give out so much. They can, and they're gonna likely pick the ones that are more sustainable. So if I give, say, a bailout to the GAA, well, I know that the GAA will survive afterwards. You don't want to give out money to someone that in 18 months' time regardless of what the landscape is, could be kaput anyway.
It's probably going to pack it in anyway.
Was struggling in boom
true.
times anyway. And then I suppose the final point for me, I always have to get the last word in. He just in the question he touched on, is it going to be a good thing or a bad thing? I think it had the potential to be a good thing, but I think it's going to be a bad thing. I think it could have forced your kind of real intelligent thinkers to say, hold on a minute, our revenue streams are too heavily based on fans. We're overcharging ticket prices. You see the introduction of the Premier League pay-per-view. We need to address our revenue streams and not be targeting the working man. We need to, fair enough, have a revenue stream from fans in terms of whether that's subscription services for your fan channel, whether it's subscription services to your likes of Sky, your likes of BT, your ticket entry prices. But it needs to be less. And you need to look at maybe more corporate funding. I don't know what necessarily the answer is, but there is a lot more intelligent people than myself who potentially could have had a look over lockdown. You 3 months sitting on a Zoom screen in your jocks and your shirt. We could have seriously said, look, we need to change this here because we could die, or let's make a change. You don't know how long this is going to go on for. And that's kind of, I think it could have been a good thing, but I don't think it will be in the long run.
You have to question the thought process behind the whole £14, £15 thing for UK fans to watch Premier League games. Like, we've been okay in Ireland in that Premier Sports and stuff. Yeah, but I don't know. Are they picking out John from Gillingham who gets the train up to London to watch Chelsea every Saturday with his pint of Stella and his packet of knickknacks? Because ultimately, that 15-20 quid that he spent on his pint of Stella and packet of knickknacks and his train in, do they think that's his money to spend on 15 quid on watching, I don't know, what was one of the games?
Chelsea, Southampton, Man United, Newcastle. I think the Villa Leicester game.
Is that what they're thinking? Because I think they need to reevaluate and go, well, John from Gillingham now has no income.
Villa Leicester game is on now. That's also pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's questionable. It's very questionable. I don't know, some clubs are giving refunds back on season tickets for games if they're on that kind of that platform. It's not enough. I know you can support your club all you want, but to buy a season ticket this season is madness. I know your club's going to suffer. There is clubs, and I hate going back to the UK, but there is clubs in the UK that are going to suffer. But if they're suffering, they probably deserve to be suffering in one sense, because how have they had no rainy day fund? Why were they running on such a tight, margin that they're now suffering? I think that has to be also questioned as well.
Very apt. Anyway, I suppose that's the final question for the competition. Great way to end. Now to the live draw. Names are in a hat. Just to throw it out there,
Deloitte are here for aren't they? Just
the hat in particular is the 2018 Philadelphia Eagles off-field knit. The 2020 versions of all NFL franchises have just dropped in our affiliate partners, USA Sports. So click the link in the bio and see if you can pick up one for yourself. How's that for a promo?
That was brilliant. Do it again?
No,
do it again and we'll just get it right.
Brilliant.
Couldn't remember what I said. Okay. And the name out of the hat. Obviously, the budget doesn't stretch long enough for a drum roll. The name out of the hat is Kevin Ross. So, Kevin, when you hear this podcast, make sure to contact us on Instagram. And drop us a message,
Kevin.
and we'll get you a gift voucher out to you as quick as can.
We definitely want a picture of Kevin wearing.
We want your stash, Kev.
Purchase. Yeah, we absolutely need a picture of Kevin wearing said purchase from USA merch.
USAsports.co.uk.
Oh, absolutely. .co.uk, you know where it is. Because otherwise, don't get paid, So, moving on.
Quick one, obviously, in his absence, our resident fight specialist. Quite a big fight last night. Lomachenko versus Lopez. Lopez victorious. Bit of a shock result. While he couldn't be with us, Beric has decided to leave us a little voice message from beyond the grave. So I'll just play that quickly.
Hello all. You may recognize
recognise these soothing tones of a one Mr. Berwick P. Dundarian. On brief hiatus from the podcast, but we'll be returning soon. Next week, as a matter of fact. But just had a check-in this week. Obviously, some tremendous stuff going on in the world of sport, as the squad will surely let you know. My ones for this week: Lomachenko defeated last time. Tough to take as a massive Lomachenko fan, but by God, mark my words, when the rematch comes, Loma will stop him in 7 rounds. Just saying it now. Just throwing it out there now. And also, anyone who ever brings up the West Ham Tottenham match on the 18th of October 2020, you have my full permission to spit in their face, because they're not someone that you should keep company with. Okay, let's not dwell on that too much. And I'll be talking to you all again next week. Thank you, Nat. Much love.
That message obviously recorded at halftime.
That was obviously recorded at half time.
Yes. He is unavailable for comment as well. Probably running up and down the streets of Glasnevin. Yeah. The tail end of that message does tie us in nicely to what we're going to cover next. I think another exceptional week for all but myself. Premier League. Well, gents, where do we start? Where do we go? What do we say? Let's start with the Merseyside derby.
What can you say? It was just another. Yeah, go ahead, Coach. This is your
break it down for us.
Okay, you go ahead. You start. I'm tired. I'm tired of our. I'm tired of. Ooh, go ahead.
Reports obviously Van Dijk out for the rest of the season.
So it was basically 4 goals in total. It ended 2-2. There was a sending off, but there was loads of controversy. I think, as we've known now in the last couple of hours, I suppose from yesterday's match, Pickford with a horror tackle on Van Dijk. Van Dijk is going to have surgery, so he could be looking at a lengthy stay on the sidelines. After that, very unfortunate for himself and for Liverpool supporters. But yes, I'm pretty sure anyone who was seeing that, who was either watching the match or have seen highlights or have even seen like stills of the offside, can tell. And I'm not a Liverpool supporter, by the way. That was not offside.
I completely disagree.
This again with VAR.
The blade of grass on his elbow was clearly offside. It's always been the case. Of grass. Oh, come on. No, but basically Jordan Henderson had a goal offside in like the 92nd minute. Was it 92nd or 93rd minute? Mm-hmm. And it was adjudged to be offside. So yeah, plenty of entertaining as it was, plenty of controversy.
I'm confused.
Coach,
I'm confused. I don't know why there's no retrospective action after the fact when Pickford does that. And I know, you know, like if I go and if the ref blows a whistle for a free kick and I go and punch someone, I'm going to get sent off. So is it because Pickford has tried to play the ball allegedly? I'm very confused with the offside. Something VAR. Look, it's not VAR's fault. It's the people that are using VAR, I think, and we also need it's the rules that go with VAR. So they need to come up with something, whether that is the crest of your chest or like in athletics where isn't it the center of your chest has got to pass the line first, or like do you make it your chin? There has to be something, because
very, 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 very easy solution. Scrap the fucking lines. It has to be clear and obvious.
It has to be clear and obvious.
Has to be clear and obvious.
Do you remember before the lines, the attacker was given benefit of the doubt? It was the benefit of the doubt kind of rule. But even if you want to keep VAR, but you use the player's chin maybe, or maybe you get too many. I don't know. You've got one player like Wayne Rooney who's fatter than another, and his chin's bigger than, and maybe he's causing an argument there. But like if an attacker is facing his own goal, which Mane was, surely he's got benefit of doubt because the Everton players are facing the right way. If he was even offside, because it was so close. And they've also compared an armpit when Van Dijk was offside versus, I think was it me, I can't remember whose hand it was, but they've compared a hand, and in the first instance with Van Dijk, they've compared an armpit.
2 points. Okay. One, I think, to be fair, if you told Liverpool fans they'd nick a point away to the league leaders at the start of the day, they would have bitten your hand off. No, I'm really joking. What my point is that I actually, and you might shoot me for this, it should be similar to rugby. It depends on the question asked by the referee. I think the referee should initiate it, and it should be, depending on his decision, it was a goal. We need clear and evident proof that it cannot be a goal.
Okay.
Those lines, those little fractions offside, that's not clear and obvious. And then additionally, what I would also suggest is maybe scrap it for offside. Like similar in rugby, you can't use a video ref to rule on a forward pass. So your linesmen have to call offside, and if they get it wrong, they get it wrong. VAR is foul play, handballs, foul play. That's all I'd have VAR for.
What about possible, three strike rule from the managers asking the fourth official? Like, because if you think about it and you go back to that play yesterday, is Ancelotti going to ask, like, if you watch the replay back, not one Everton player put up his hand to claim offside.
Captain's challenge.
So, yeah, captain's challenge. He gets 3 of them, he gets 1 of them. I don't know, whatever. But
1.5.
I don't know. Like, it's obviously gone. I think it was David Coote in the box yesterday for VAR and down in London, and he's gone into the ear of the ref. You might want to have a look at this, but I don't know. Like, I'm unsure of why. Like, what stood out? Because no Everton player raised their hand, so there was no question. Like, where did that come from? I think Everton were resigned to the fact they're after losing the game.
Absolutely. I would suggest, again, really the rugby, what a bollocks I am. They introduced a thing this year, it's called a captain's challenge. Each side has 1. Once you use it, if you're wrong, you lose it. If you're right, you retain it.
You keep it, okay.
Yeah, that's what I do, and I'd scrap lines, like, get rid of the fucking lines. People don't care if you make, like, if you're off by a millimetre. But what they do care about is 4 minutes of review, and it's decided by a bit of fucking geometry.
Yeah. Moving on from, can we move away from Merseyside because it's giving me a headache.
Yeah. So basically, another Chelsea again. Nice to see some of their new signings do well. Werner and Havertz were on the score sheet, but they blew a 3-goal lead and drew 3-3 with Southampton. Good to see how Danny Ings on the score sheet again there. Where are we?
Ingsy's having a great season.
Yeah, sorry, 2.
Yeah.
So it was 2, it was 2-0, 2-2, 3-2, and then Vestergaard scored in the 92nd minute. Jesus, 6 goals. The goals don't fucking stop this season, sure they don't?
No, I think that record's going to be smashed around Christmas.
They're flying in all over the place.
I'm sticking with United not to...
loads of...
100%.
You're sticking with United not to finish top 10?
100%. United were not better than Newcastle yesterday, up until the last 10 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, when I seen that it was 1-0 after 2 minutes, I was like, fuck me, this is going to be like...
Luke Shaw.
This is not going to be United's day again. And then... they got the equaliser, and I was like, right, I'll settle for a 1-1. But then, just those last 10 minutes, then they just start knocking them in. Wan-Bissaka getting his first goal for the club. Harry Maguire getting the equaliser. That'll do his confidence the world of good after the couple of weeks that he's after having.
I think it's on Harry Maguire to take a break.
Fernandes having the penalty. His first missed penalty since joining United, and I think it's his first missed penalty out of the last 20 or 25 that he's taken in his career as well. And then Rashford then in the 96th minute. So good show, and that'll do them the world of confidence, especially Harry Maguire with getting a goal. But I think the team in general, because if I'm not mistaken, they're playing Chelsea. I think it's their it's PSG on Tuesday night. I was Champions League football, yes.
Yes, I was going to say, just
this coming week.
You're talking about confidence there, Doctor. You're talking about confidence.
In terms of Premier League, yeah.
You're talking about confidence. They've got Paris or PSG. They've got Chelsea.
Yeah, PSG.
Then they've got Leipzig. Yeah. Then they've got Arsenal, and then they're away Chelsea, in Turkey. Yeah. So they've got
Paris.
5 games that.
Paris. What is this? Pro Evolution Soccer?
Is
Manchester Red and Paris.
Manchester
Revolution
United versus
Soccer, yeah.
Paris Blue.
The PSV.
Yeah, like Ollie's tenure could really get questioned over the next 5 games.
That's valid.
It could do, yeah, but I mean, they said that last season as well. The last season when they had Spurs, Man City, and someone else, they were like, "No, he's gone after this," and then they go and they beat Spurs and they beat Man City.
I think
Which nobody really
his biggest
expected
problem
them
is that it's not him signing the players, and then like you'd have to question the team he put out yesterday.
In a 4-1
He's let-
victory. Let's just
Yeah, but if you
Keep
look at
one of ourselves here.
the players that came on, so like Van den Beek came on, Pogba came on.
Pogba needs to go.
Pogba, oh no,
I'd have him playing with the
Pogba needs to
19s.
go, but like
Does need to go, yeah.
the team he started with, you have to what man in his right mind plays Daniel James? Given he had an okay game, but if okay isn't good enough, consistency isn't good enough from Daniel James. And I'm a Liverpool fan. Like I would be, I don't understand it.
He was
And
supposed
that's
to,
where he's going to get questioned. That's where always going to get questioned.
Yeah. He was supposed to go out on loan as well, wasn't he, at the start of the season, Daniel James?
Out on loan to Leeds, I believe. We're the big one.
Something. to
Might
that
get a
effect.
spot
But,
there.
yeah, if you're paying 40 million quid for a Dutch sensation, you got to play him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
And Manchester City, just to touch on Aguero and Shan Walton.
Yeah, Shan Massey. Yeah,
Shan
yeah.
Shan
Get
Massey,
off.
apologies.
You got
There's
off.
Yeah, it's
quite a bit. A lot of people giving out about it, saying, no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
would it be if it was?
You can't.
Does it come down to male and female? Is this a sexism thing or?
Do you know what? I would say there's a little bit of both. I'd say, like there's people going, I'd be like, you simply cannot do that. And I think had that been a male Lions person, shall we call them, there probably wouldn't have been as big a fuss. But I think because it's a female FA personnel, I think it's probably getting more traction than it should be. But however, having said that, yeah, you can't be, because you can see you can see it clearly in the replay. Like, it's a bit fucking rough, to be quite honest.
There's a little bit of a tug, yeah. Just after watching the Spurs game,
She
I think
brushed
Spurs
it
gonna
off
have-
professionally, though.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Just on the Spurs game, I think Spurs are going to have big problems with Bale. Bale's come onto the pitch. I think one of the players is dribbling towards him. The ball kind of gets away from him, and Bale's maybe 10 yards away. Bale puts out his hand to say, stop running, and goes and takes the ball off him. He takes the ball off him, he dribbles, 3-4 yards, and then passes and gives the ball away. And I think there's going to be serious problems going forward, similar to Ronaldo in the latter days of Real Madrid, where players are just going to start giving Bale the ball when it's not entirely necessary. There's going to be a power struggle there. I'm not saying that Bale's demanding it, but I just think that the players around him possibly think that this is the way, give the ball to God, give the ball, like he's a Messi-like figure at Spurs. And I have to say, by no means is that true, because he looked extremely unfit tonight. I kind of questioned as to why he hadn't played for Spurs yet, because he had been in a Welsh squad previous to the last international break. He was left out with the last squad, and then he looks way off the mark.
You've been playing golf for 8 years. 7 years.
You'd have to question why they've gone for him. I know it's romance. I get that.
Absolutely,
but
that's the only
they have to
reason.
be better.
Romance.
Is it jersey sales? Like,
Could be. Not gonna fan through the gates.
Yeah.
How else do you tap up fan money? You tap it up with jersey sales. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
Just
buying his jersey after tonight.
if I could just go back to the Man City Arsenal game. As an Arsenal fan, I suppose we're in an interesting stage with Arteta. Obviously, we lost 1-0 and we didn't look like scoring. But if you look back over past results, it's a plethora of 3-0 and 3-1 defeats to City. What is slightly frustrating watching Arteta is he has a system, and under no circumstances will his system break down. So when Arsenal were chasing, they never actually looked like they were chasing because his complete confidence in the system. I hope it works out for him because we are playing better. But it's interesting with the players he's signed. Like he seems to love Eddie Nketiah, and I don't see it. I'd much rather bring on a Reece Nelson, who seems to add a bit more around the park. But I don't think, say, a Reece Nelson fits in his system. And even if you look at the signings, Thomas Partey, while a million times better, is going to do the same role for Arsenal as Xhaka does. But he's just going to do it at a higher level. So it's almost as if the players in Arsenal now are going to need to fit around Arteta's system, as opposed to the system fitting around the players. Not sure if it's a great approach, but it could work. I just wanted to add me tuppence work because
Arsenal
I hadn't spoken in 10 minutes. And
Arsenal, they have a nice couple of fixtures coming up in that they're in Vienna in Europe, and then they've got Leicester City at home. So you would, I suppose, if you're an Arsenal fan, you'd be hoping for a win there. Got a tricky game, but you'd be hoping for a win. And then they are playing Dundalk. So,
where in Windsor? Who knows?
Well, that one's going to be in the Emirates, but yeah, who knows where they're playing.
Where the return fixture will be, yeah. And then there's a tricky...
Maybe just kill two birds, one stone, let Dundalk play in London.
Yeah, and then you got that tricky trip to Molde.
Yeah, but I think, if you're an Arsenal fan, you cannot be looking at that and thinking and cacking yourself. You've got to go in, that has to be 12 points, 2 European games and league game. And you have to be. You're not getting 12 points there. Arteta starting to slip into the managers that you would expect possibly to Christmas time. I know they're a rebuilding project. I know.
You think he's going to get the boot?
No, but he's okay. You've probably got Ole down there. You've definitely got Dyche down there. Guardiola, you're probably thinking, does he want to be here rather than?
I'd say February he'll announce he's going to someone in. Like the thing he always does, where he announces it like 6 months beforehand. Because I don't think they'll be anywhere near the Premiership this year. I don't see it. They don't blow me away like they have done in previous years.
Manchester Blue.
They don't blow me away.
Previous years, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Now, the only thing is, without Van Dijk, are Liverpool going to be as dominant? It could be a real shit fight this year.
I think.
Which good.
Unfortunately, this season there's no fans, and it's going to be a real opportunistic season. I think you've got Everton. I would have said before today. I probably would have said Tottenham as well, sniffing.
Yeah.
Villa bizarrely could be this year's. Yeah. They're going to fight for Europe, but look, the way we'll see how they get on tonight. But
look, it is very early days. What are we, match week 5?
Yeah, but like it's definitely an opportunistic year. Liverpool
match week 5,
using Van Dijk, Alisson. I see things on Twitter report that Alisson could be out for longer than first stated. It's and Everton look on form, no? I know it's nice to see the shy half of the city doing well, but you don't want to see them do too well. And I think it's good to see them putting it up against other teams. Like if you were to put Everton against Man United now, Everton are the favourites there.
Absolutely. James Rodriguez is phenomenal.
I'd even agree with that. Yeah.
I don't know how. Like, I understand obviously there's a relationship there with Carlo Ancelotti. He was obviously signed him at Bayern. He signed him to Monaco. Madrid. He signed him but he did sign him in Monaco, didn't he?
Madrid as well.
I think so. Yeah.
I know we brought him to Madrid and Bayern, but
he didn't get much of a run at Monaco. James.
Okay, but like, there's obviously an affiliation there and a relationship there. So from that point of view, I do. But at the start of the season, to think that Rodriguez would be playing for Everton, you'd be like, here, I know it's 2020 and there's a lot of bizarre shit going on, but
if they are still in the position they're in by January, they have seriously got to look at a keeper, because if they can get a good goalkeeper in there, wow.
Well, yeah, I'll be English national keeper. Look, anyway, but
I feel sorry for Henderson at United, because he could be in the English squad ahead of him.
Absolutely.
If he was getting games from
absolutely. I know.
Apologies, I digressed.
The Monday fixtures will already have been played by the time this podcast goes out, but it's an absolute feast of football for football fans. You've got 2 games on a Monday, you've a game on the Friday in the Premier League, and you've also got European football splattered in there in the middle. I mean, what more do you want after the last 2 weeks of watching Ireland not score?
Yeah.
And
Which
let's never
segues nicely
speak
into
of it
just
again.
a little push for the women. Just a little push for the women Friday night. I know we got Premier League, but Friday night, big, massive game for the Republic of Ireland women's team to take on Ukraine. And they need a draw there to qualify for a playoff at the very least. So, yeah, support the girls in green. Koi big, Koi gig, evidently. But yeah, massive night for them, and best luck to Vera Powell and the ladies.
And look, anyone on this
Best of luck.
podcast would attest that you always support any individual in a green jersey, whether that be man, woman, child. So yeah, obviously we're in behind the girls in green. Also, I suppose the FAI announced this week a big announcement.
Yes,
Oh yeah, new
Jonathan Hill.
CEO, Johnny
New
Hill.
CEO. Don't know an awful lot about him. I think he's come from the English FA. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, he's had a few. He's had a great background in kind of, that's why you'd call it marketing, a large part of marketing. Euro '96, I believe, and Wembley's kind of, yeah, the whole Wembley setup. A large part would have been to do with tickets as well and the rebranding. Look, seems like a great fit for what the FA need at this current time. He's announced kind of on LinkedIn and Twitter that he's looking forward to the role and that sort of stuff. Look, it's the right background. It's the right way to go for the FAI. I hope he puts a little bit of emphasis on the league. I think it's a great time to put some emphasis on the League of Ireland when we do get over this pandemic and trying to get people into grounds. If you're not going to look, we spoke about it last week. I think we're in the middle of a project, and look, we need to look at the World Cup and how we're going to qualify there. I don't think it's going to be a top spot of any group or anything like that, but we'll build up. We have, hopefully, please God, we'll have the women going to the Euros and maybe hopefully the 21s as well. So look, it's two kind of glimmers of hope and life that's a good fit.
Good stuff, well said.
And I suppose just to round off association
Go on, I hope you're going to round off with something that I'm thinking in my head. But do you know what? We'll leave it till around the globe because this man is a globetrotter. So you continue, Sass.
Well, I was just going to say SPL, Old Firm, Derby #1 for the year, 2-0 the Rangers. Not what an awful lot of Irish fans would like to hear. I know there was some that would like to hear that. And then, we touched on him last week, the Chuck Norris of football. Zlatan Ibrahimovic scoring both goals in a 2-0 win for AC Milan in the Milan Derby over the weekend as well.
Yes.
So
yeah. Jesus, well, what is he? 39 now, isn't he? And still going at the top level.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Ages,
That's incredible. He was out, didn't he? Test positive for COVID at
we touched on it last week. Yeah,
the month, was it? And then came back to training that last year.
Yeah, COVID test positive for
fair play to him. On another point from around the world, both Real Madrid and Barca got today. Real Madrid beaten at home by Cadiz, I think is how you pronounce it. They're newly promoted, and Barcelona beaten by Getafe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Getafe.
My Spanish is not the best. Getafe. Sevilla also beaten, and then Atletico Madrid had a good away win against Celta Vigo.
Perfect.
Before you segue on into the
today's
globe,
other results, it's draws all around so far. Sheffield United, Fulham got their first point on the board. Palace Brighton 1-1. As we seen not long ago, Spurs, who were 3-0 up at half time, drew 3-0 West Ham with a cracker of 25-30 yard strike from Lazzini. And then it's half time, Leicester Villa.
Currently. Okay.
Which is 0-0.
So around the globe, a lot to touch on. Obviously, as touched on earlier, Lakers are now NBA champions. Exeter Chiefs won the Challenge Cup yesterday, or the Champions Cup yesterday. Sorry, obviously rugby's equivalent to the Champions League. It's a phenomenal story. So back in 1995, when rugby went professional, they were in the Courage League Division 4. So a real Sunday League Royal Rover stuff. Promoted to the Premiership 10 years ago after spending 11 years in the Championship. and yesterday, victorious over the mighty spending power of Racing Metro. 29-28, I think, willing to be corrected on the score. I have it scribbled on 31-27. Sorry, forgive me. Bit of a foo-fa at the end. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but Nigel Owens and the clock management at the end was a bit bizarre, to say the least. So basically what happened is extra had a kick. They took too long to make the decision. He stopped the clock. He started the clock again, but the timing team couldn't keep up with him. And basically he said he'd count 5 seconds. He wanted to take 5 seconds off the clock. He said he'd count 5 seconds while the player was lining up the kick. He took the kick. He slotted it. Racing ran up to obviously kick to restart the game. At which stage the touch judge was in his ear saying, no, the clock actually should have been dead when the kick went over. So it was kind of 2 or 3 minutes where no one knew what was happening. He blew the full-time whistle anyway. Bit of a black eye for European rugby. And then just to also touch on, rugby's obviously equivalent to the Europa League. The Challenge Cup was played Friday night with Bristol, managed by Pat Lamb, who's done a serious job in Connacht in recent years. Now seems to be doing a similar job in Bristol, beating the power of Toulon. So 2 victories for English club sides over the weekend. Next week is a huge weekend in Australian sport. You've got the AFL final, Geelong versus Richmond Tigers. 2 Irish representatives playing with Geelong. You've got Zach Toohey, the leashman, and Mark O'Connor. So we hope that our boys go well down there. And then the Sunday, you've got the NRL Grand Final. So you've only one more week of me babbling on about NRL. My side, the Raiders, knocked out by the Melbourne Storm, looking to give Cameron Smith, well, it's not confirmed, he's looking at retiring at the end of the season. Maybe it hasn't been confirmed. A perfect send-off versus the Penrith Panthers. In addition, stateside, I know we give it a lot of coverage, but the World Series will kick off on Tuesday night. The Tampa Bay Rays knocked the Astros out last night. A lot of baseball fans be happy to see that, given the Houston Astros history of cheating and the disdain for the franchise throughout the league. And they will play the winners of the Dodgers and the Braves playing tonight. So you'll know by the time this goes out to air. I think that's gone to a Game 7. Willing to be corrected. Also, I might let the coach jump in on this because he's actually seen the highlights. I haven't. But as we know, the All Blacks and the Wallabies drew last week, and similar to that Michael Jordan meme from The Last Dance, they took that personally, running out winners 27-7 over the Wallabies. But one thing I just did want to touch on, there's one Six Nations game next weekend. It's Ireland versus Italy. I think not just rugby fans, but the general public may be able to remember back to pre-COVID. This was a key point. Should this game go ahead, given the emerging COVID status in Italy at this stage, hadn't really touched their shores. So it's. I know, geez, the numbers look bad now today and over the last few days, but we starting to get back to a new normal, a new reality with this fixture being played, given when it was originally slated.
Tell you what, at least the Italians got a good fill of points in Dublin that weekend.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Paddy's weekend as well.
It was a great weekend, wasn't it, for them? I heard the Viking splash stores were sold out as well with Italians. Look, yeah, great to have rugby back, or international rugby. Great to have the Irish lads back on the pitch and be able to watch. Hopefully it goes ahead. Like, you know, by the time this goes out, we'll have had an announcement tomorrow night about what's happening in Ireland regarding levels. I don't think it will affect professional sport. I don't think. But the All Blacks and Wallabies is going to be interesting one. The Australians need that. They really need to win that one to level up. But the All Blacks look strong. They took Bowen Barrett off the kicks after a few missed kicks last week. And look.
Who was kicking for them? I haven't seen the highlights yet.
You really put me on the spot there, Sat.
Sorry, man.
I'm not able to tell you.
Sorry, man. While you're researching that for us ad hoc, obviously interesting enough, the Springboks have pulled out of that rugby championship, which is due to start after this Bledisloe Cup series. Obviously the state of COVID in South Africa, it's going to be difficult for them to adhere. As far as I'm aware, Argentina though are still hoping to remain in the rugby championship this year. Anything else from around the world, Doc?
And actually, just on that, just while we're on rugby, it was announced, I think yesterday or the day before, that they've shortlisted 10 rugby players for World Rugby Player of the Decade. And Johnny Sexton appears on that list with a Frenchman, a South African man, forget their names, and 7 All Blacks. So the best of luck to Johnny Sexton against those other 9 for World Rugby Player
The All Blacks aren't
of
even
the
that
decade.
good. Like, they're not even that good. Like,
But they're composed of Richie McCaw, Bowden Barrett, Dan Carter, and such.
it's that ilk. It's the last decade, is it? So yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be strange for any of them to win it because I suppose they would have kind of retired at the start of the decade. So it seems like
so like
it
Richie
depends.
McCaw's OP would have retired after the 2015 World Cup, was it?
Oh, I think earlier. I think the 2011. Jeez, that's a good point now. I'll have to double check that. Sorry.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was 2015. Dan Carter may have between World Cups.
Still going. Danny Carter's going.
Either, but
He's
still going, is he? At like club level, yeah.
He's plays with the Auckland Blues, and he just by chance.
He's third or fourth choice down the list, isn't he?
No, you are in fact correct. Dr. I stand corrected. 2015
Don't doubt the doc.
is their retirement year of one Richard McCaw, possibly the greatest rugby player of all time.
McCaw.
I'm willing to be called out on that.
UFC last night.
There you go.
Anyone know
Ortega
what
beat
happened?
the Zombie.
What?
Ortega beat the Zombie. I think that probably means he's entitled to a fight against Holloway, possibly. There's nothing lined up yet, as I don't believe, but I'm sure Beric will update us on that next
interesting
week.
as well. Israel Adesanya was in the All Blacks dressing room, given his high profile, obviously around the world, but I'd say in New Zealand he's a bit of a hero. With his left boobie. Don't know if anybody's seen that. No. He's got like a flappy left hit. It's just a man would throw an allegation of gynecomastia out there and a bit of a PED utilization. I don't know. Very strange. I think that's us, gents. Are we anything else to add? Richie Moga.
Best luck to Robbie Keane. Best luck to Robbie Keane over in
LA
LA.
Galaxy, yeah.
Oh,
Richie Moga, is that the
taking
kicker?
over LA Galaxy, yeah.
Monga, that was the kicker.
Richie
You are
Moga.
correct, Sass. Robbie Keane off to LA. I believe it's a boyhood dream from to manage LA Galaxy. So, look, that's the best of luck to him. I think I personally think it is the worst decision in MLS history. It'll be a good initial appointment, I think, for 2 weeks until they find out how much Instagram stories will be on with his son kicking the ball into the shed end of the Herbalife Centre or whatever they call their ground these days. Yeah. So, look, best of luck to him. What can you say?
Tala is the California of Dublin, I suppose.
And likewise, California is the Tala of LA. So
True, very true.
Yeah, best of luck to Robbie and Robbie Jr. Yeah, it's always been a dream. Yeah, love me. But yeah, so fair play to him. Fair play to him getting that, because LA are in a rough spot at the moment. Going from MLS champions numerous times, with Beckham, Gerrard, Keane himself, but I don't think Robbie Keane's going to be bringing an MLS championship anytime soon.
Who's the form side in the MLS at present? I have never watched it in my life. I don't think.
MLS is because so obviously in the MLS they've got
Divisions similar to.
They've also got divisions. So yeah, they had their own bubble competition at the start of the year, which seemed to be a resounding success. Toronto will be kind of thereabouts looking for it. And then you've got your Philadelphia, Columbus Crew, and Orlando City. They type you're kind of top four, all trying to get vying for the championship this year. So a lot of teams have fallen away. Atlanta used to be a big side, or strong side, but yeah, best of luck to Robbie in LA.
Perfect. Do you want to sign us off there, Doc?
Absolutely. Yes, we have been the three busted Barstools.
Soon to be four.
thank you very much for tuning in. We'll speak to you again next week for season 2, episode 7. To all those who follow us on Instagram so far, thank you very much. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a share. Don't forget to comment. And hopefully we'll have another prize giveaway in the next couple of weeks as well. I've been the Doc. He's been the coach. He's been the Sass. And we'll have Beric back next week. Signing off for another week. Thank you very much. Be safe.
Be seen.
And thank you very much. All the best.